Christian, welcome back for us to continue our conversation on all the different things we've learned and are applying in our own lives.
Yeah, I'm very excited. This is a great opportunity. I think last time, Ilene, we were thinking, hey, why don't we talk about energy in this session? And there's some things that we've both learned, and I'm looking forward to just bouncing some ideas around.
I agree. We get so focused on time management and
Mm.
let's make sure we get, block this time and do this and that, but we don't usually pay attention to how are we managing our own energy and how can we manage our energy? So is it something that we can refuel when we're feeling particularly depleted? So I'm going to
Mhm.
bounce the ball your way. What what do you think about energy management and how does it show up in your life?
Yeah, and this is really about us just thinking about how we've incorporated these things. So I'm just going to be sharing some thoughts from my own perspective. So one of the things, Eileen, I've noticed is that energy, my energy is limited, and really thinking about how do I deploy that energy. And one of the things that I've been thinking about most recently is almost splitting out, Eileen, the uh, things that I do during the day that require energy that is kind of just is depleted. So I put some energy into something and that energy just goes into that. Then there's other events throughout the day that I think, when I put energy into it, I'm getting some energy back. And Eileen, I would say this conversation is an example of that. It's I don't understand engineering very well, but it's almost like a hybrid thing where it's kind of self-charging while I'm doing it. And then there's a third category of things that I think we really need to pay attention to, or I definitely need to pay attention to, which is giving my permission to do things that are purely about boosting my energy.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you, Eileen?
Yeah. I'll bounce into that in one sec, but I just want to ask you, I love this self-charging concept. It's almost like there's reciprocity going on
Yeah,
there and
yeah,
that
yeah,
that contagion of
yeah,
energy because I
yes,
I feel the same. And then I'm curious in terms of those just the self the self boosting, those things that
yeah,
we just do that just fill our pitcher. And for
yeah.
you, what are some of those things?
Well, that's great because one of the things I was going to suggest for our listeners is, a little audit almost. And maybe
Yeah.
that's just made it an energy losing kind of thing for some people. So you could think of it differently. Let's use language I would like. Maybe color code my diary, right? Just to have a look in a week. And I might allocate different colors for
Mhm.
things that require energy but don't actually recharge me, things that I'm doing purely that are about recharging my energy, and those special ones which are about I put some energy in and I get some energy out. So conversations like this when I'm learning, Eileen, when I'm learning something, I'm loving it. So I put some energy into learning. I'm getting something because I'm learning. And it might be because love of learning is one of my top via character strengths. So definitely that. For me, feeling that I'm making a contribution and that is being recognized, that's huge for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing something and I just think, look, people are appreciating this and it's adding value in some way, that's another thing. And the final one that comes straight away to me is teaching, Eileen. I actually love being
Mm.
in the role of an educator, especially with people who want to learn something. So
Yeah.
those things are energizing for me. And yeah, what about you?
Yeah. I I love I'm gonna just double down on your color coding. I love that
Yeah,
exercise, and then I will answer your question because what a cool thing to do to just open
yeah,
up your calendar, open up your diary, and start color coding, and
yeah,
assign a different color for things that drain the life out of you,
Yeah, yeah,
and those things that boost you up, or that there's that reciprocity. And it reminds me of a tool that I do with clients, and I try to remind myself of, and that's just a simple chart, a T chart. One is replenish and one is
yeah.
drain, and write
Brilliant.
down those things that drain us and replenish. The thing though that I always say when whether I'm giving a talk or working with clients is, we can't sometimes get rid of all the drains. So I'm not
Mm.
suggesting that. You're not suggesting that. But
No.
almost like that whole sandwich, when people sandwich a compliment, it's
Yeah,
sandwich your energy. So I remember when you and I met last time, you had an option to either sit down and go through thousands of emails, or take a motorcycle ride to see your son
oh,
before we hopped
yes.
on a call. And you
Yes.
chose, take a motorcycle ride, have lunch with my son, and then come back and feel refreshed and in the place you want to be.
Yeah,
And that doesn't mean you didn't go to your emails at some other time, but how do
yeah,
we want to sandwich what we're doing with replenishing and draining? If we've got a car that's, we put gas into, you can't just run the car past empty. We have to
yeah.
keep replenishing. And so I would say, for myself, I am aware as much as I can be. And then I become keenly aware when I haven't paid attention, but I try
Yeah.
to pay attention along the way so I don't get to empty.
Mm.
One of the big things for me is walking. That is
Yes.
a place where I really refuel, and I get to
Yeah.
be quiet with
Yeah.
myself, quiet in my thoughts, and just the movement really replenishes me. It's truly like getting gas for my mind, body, soul. So that's a biggie for me. And then if I find myself going past the point of no return, I would say, and this probably goes into that introversion extroversion. People often think, of
Yeah.
course you're an extrovert. Not necessarily, because I do recharge alone. I need
Wow.
to have that quiet time, and I
Yeah.
love being social with my family and with my friends and getting out there. But if I've gone to the point of no return, chances are I need alone time.
I love this. And I think let's take that little analogy further because I think it's such a powerful one of the running on empty. And I hope our listeners can kind of get what we're talking about. I think we've all experienced that. I'm kind of running on empty. And imagine the little fuel light has come on, even, right? So the fuel light's on. We know that. If we're driving a car, the fuel light's on, we're going to pull up, right? We're going to pull up at the next gas station because the risk of not pulling up is pretty dramatic, right? You're going to end up without gas in the middle of the road. But I would say for our well-being, it's maybe even more dramatic. It's not like,
Hmm.
oh, on the side of the road, could be even worse than that. So
Yeah.
maybe the takeaway from our little conversation now is, please pay attention to that little red light when
Yeah.
it's on. That's an important little red light. And just like we would pull into a gas station, what's our equivalent of that? And Eileen, uh, each person, that's going to be different, right? So when you
Yeah.
said walk, I love the walk as well. And I can do it in micro moments as well. In really busy days, I might only have 2 or 3 minutes between meetings, but I'll
Right.
put my AirPods on and I'll listen to music that I know uplifts me. It could be 3 minutes. That's a real little
Yeah.
mini boost. So I think that's a great strategy for us. Is what are the little things we can do to manage our energy during the week? And maybe looking at it on a week by week basis to make sure there's balance, right up
Yeah.
front. And when there isn't, be sure we have those mini strategies to build into the day, maybe.
Yeah. No, I really love that. And I'm going to take that one step further.
Yeah.
Plan it out now. Do
Mm.
not wait till you're on empty to then think,
Yeah.
what should I be doing? How am I going to replenish myself? Once we're on empty, our emotional resources are tapped. And so to
Yeah.
even think what boosts us can feel hard. And
Yeah.
so if you can kind of, when you're feeling in a peaceful place, say, you know what, I'm going to kind of check in with myself and think, what does refuel me, and do it now when I don't need it. And
Mm.
it's like going to a doctor. We don't want to just go to see doctors when we're feeling sick and we're, we can't move. You also want to be preventative and proactive. And I think being proactive around our energy
Yeah.
management and thinking about what will fill me up. And I love the
Yeah.
music. Just that's such newer research in the positive psychology world and
Yeah.
that positive humanities. I love how music, art, just looking at a
Yeah.
photo can
Mm.
really give us that sense of calm and fulfillment.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I think more of those things, integrating them into our practice. I love that idea as well. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think there's so many categories too. I have something that I created called a replenishment wheel, and it
Okay.
has all different categories. So even thinking about what friends lift me up,
Mm.
who
Yes.
who might a quick call to? You're on, you're listening to music for 3 minutes. Who might I call for 3 minutes or even have a funny text exchange with? Who is that
Yeah.
person that makes me smile?
Yeah.
Or what photograph again brings back that feel good, moment? It
Yeah.
takes a minute.
Yeah. And I was talking with a colleague today about strategies to increase goal attainment. And there we were talking about accountability partners, almost this idea
Yeah.
of buddying. And I'm wondering whether that little check-in, maybe it's once a week, once a month, with, hey, how you doing on this?
Yeah, I
How
love
close
that.
to empty are you?
Yeah.
Because I love the planning ahead, because I think all of us can see weeks, can't we? When we look ahead in our diaries, we can
Mhm.
say, oh my gosh, that's going to be a long stretch. That's going to
Yeah.
be a long drive. And so I love the idea of preparing for that. And a lot of this, Eileen, is I think giving ourselves permission to do those things which are purely about replenishing.
Yeah. Yeah. And to give ourselves permission and also honor that in other people who we
Yeah.
see. And I think a lot of our listeners are senior leaders in organizations, and it's easy to get in that mindset of productivity, 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 and encouraging our teams, the people who we're leading, to take those moments to boost ourselves, refuel the
Yeah.
tank. They will be more effective and productive when when your team takes care of themselves. We cannot run on empty, whether it's at work, whether it's at home. It's not going to serve anybody well.
Yeah, absolutely right, Eileen. I think I love the relevance for in an organizational setting. And Eileen, both you and I are executive coaches, so I think we've got our own lived experiences, but we also have the opportunity to talk to others. And one of the things I have noticed that just popped into my head now as being relevant is noticing that sometimes when people are under pressure, time pressure, they're actually dropping those things
Yeah.
that might be replenishing, right? Because we're like, oh, no, no, I can't go for a walk that week because I've got all of this stuff to do, or I'm not going to pop out to go listen to some music because I really need to get through this. And so we're actually filling our diaries with the things that are taking our energy
Yeah.
and maybe removing things that are either that, I love this idea of
Yeah.
reciprocal,
Yeah.
or simply replenishing. And so I do love the idea. I think I'm going to do the color coding, Eileen, now that we've talked about it, because it'll give me a little snapshot of the week ahead to say, okay, this week's looking, got the right balance. That week might be a little, I need to maybe build some stuff in or take some stuff out.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to try to color code. And you know what we talked about? I just remembered right after we finished our last
Yeah.
episode, we talked about an old article, which I've revamped a bit, called
Oh,
The
yes.
Outsourced Life. And it's doing exactly what you're talking about. In many ways, we've outsourced so much of what we do that actually gives us a sense of calm and
Yeah.
replenishment. And so it might be having a dog walker. That for some
Yes.
people is something that can bring them joy. And so
Yeah.
we have a dog walker, we have someone clean the house, we have someone garden. There's all
Yeah.
different things that different people
Oh, yeah.
outsource. We might not
Yeah.
outsource all of them, we might outsource some. And are we outsourcing them to refill it with replenishing items, or are we outsourcing it so we have more time to stare at a screen and
Oh,
check
yes.
emails? And so, really looking at it and not to judge how we choose to outsource, but just make sure that your outsourcing is filling your bucket and
Yeah.
how
I love
what the
that.
choices you're making.
And this might be a good place for us to kind of wrap up. I'm thinking, Eileen, but I do want to share one other thing about how do I know that this is one of those reciprocal things that I'm putting some energy in and I'm getting energy out. It's when I get into that flow state.
Hmm.
And so I think a good way for me to figure out what are those things that are having that effect is when are those moments when I kind of lose track of time because I'm just so immersed
Yeah.
in something. And I remember during the pandemic, one of the things, surprisingly, was facilitating small group sessions with people. I would really lose track of time
Yeah.
and I'd be so into it that my biggest risk was, oh, I've forgotten to keep an eye on the time. So maybe that's it. And for some people, there'll be things like gardening where they feel that way. And for me, Eileen, I don't have a dog, but I really wish I could. The dog walking is the one thing I wouldn't outsource. So if there's
Yeah.
any of our listeners out here wanting to outsource that, look me up.
Christian will now be your dog walker.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So as we wrap up, because again, I am in my flow state, and we already said we are keeping these short, but I could go
Yeah.
on forever. So I'm going to just highlight a few things for our listeners to take away. One is stop what you're doing right now. Look at your calendar, look at your diary, and say, what fills me up, what am I getting some reciprocal energy from, and what's draining me, and go ahead and color code that like Christian suggested. You might also want to make a T chart with replenish and drain, and you might want to look at different categories in your life, whether it's friends, family, music, different exercises, whatever that looks like, and create a list of the things that fill you up and replenish you in those categories so that you have your list ready to roll when you're feeling on empty. Christian, thank you for joining me on What's Possible.
Thanks, Eileen. It's been wonderful.